In other words, the violence is about to begin. And that's what he warned about. So if you look at history, the communists have murdered hundreds of millions of people. So it's about to start. The reason I love you guys is because I'm a hardcore gold, silver, and I'm Bitcoin and all this. I'm a hard asset guy. So it's good news for us, but it's bad news for the boomers. Very bad news. And what's happening is Jay Powell of the Fed is trying to push the yield curve up. But as most of you know, the real yield curve is the Eurodollar curve. It's not the Fed curve. And the Eurodollar curve went inverted. Now, every time that has happened, tragedy follows. So most of us are old enough to remember the last time that yield curve, not the last time, but an earlier time was 2007, the Eurodollar yield curve inverted and the Fed was trying to hold it up. So the Fed's pushing it this way, but the Eurodollar is going this way. And that led to the Lehman moment, 2008. So then what happened in 2019, it inverted again, the repo market inverted, the Eurodollar inverted, and COVID appeared. So once again, the Eurodollar yield curve inverted just recently, and I'm standing alongside my friend Jim Rickards that this next one is going to be the biggest of all. Now, it's good news for some people, but horrible news for the boomers who are starting to retire. So if you're a stock market person and you're counting on the stock market to keep you alive, let's say you're 65 years old and you're going to live to 85, you might be in serious trouble. It's really horrible. But it was predicted in this book here. I'm not a communist, but it's called the Communist Manifesto. Marx was an idiot, but he was a smart guy. He predicted everything that's happening today in America. So he said that what's going to happen, and it's happening in this country here, is the boomers will go bust. So unfortunately, what Marx was saying was that capitalism would destroy 50% of the population and shove them into poverty. See, all of these baby boomers who have no idea about markets, and they blindly give their money over to Wall Street, who will rip them off. I mean, I'm not against Wall Street, I'm just against corruption. They rip them off. They don't know what's going to happen. And now, exactly as Rickards has been saying, he says the Fed, the most incompetent people going, they're telling everything's going right. Whereas the Eurodollar market is so much bigger than the Fed. The Eurodollar market is the biggest market in the world, and it's just inverted. We're going down. The biggest problem, again, is the Eurodollar system, which is 1,000 times bigger than the Fed, is crashing. Europe is going down right now. I mean, if you see the report, and this is not me speaking, this is the Wall Street Journal talking about it. There's so many rioting going on about this COVID stuff. People just don't want to take it anymore. The uncertainty is too high, so the Eurodollar system is trying to go down. But Jim Rickards talks about a thing called Triffin's dilemma. Triffin's dilemma took place in 1944 when the US dollar became the reserve currency of the world. And what that meant was the US dollar was screwed anyway. So one of these, I'm a gold bug and a silver bug and a Bitcoin bug and all this. I just don't trust the Fed. And all these people say, oh, don't fight the Fed, ride with the Fed. They're full of it. And so when I listen to Jim Rickards, it's about Triffin's dilemma. We always have to run a deficit. And now we can't run it much longer. So more than inflation or deflation is that the Eurodollar market is now, as the index has inverted. Every time that has happened, something bad is happened. That's what I'm concerned about. When you look at the numbers, is that we're already in a depression. In other words, if economies have been growing at 3%, it's only growing at 2%. That's a technical depression. So people are watching, oh, the stock market's up, everybody's happy and all this, but everything's inverting upon us. So just recently, the Eurodollar curve inverted. Every time that has happened, it was followed by Lehman Brothers and it was followed by COVID. And so this one is going to happen again. And that's why I'm saying to people, because I'm a gold and silver and Bitcoin bug, this is a good time to get into gold and silver now. That's what I'm saying. I have no problem with cash. I'm just saying right now, if you're a boomer, what this guy Marx wrote about was that 50% of our population was shipped from, let's say, proletariat to poverty. That's what he was calling for in 1848. And when I saw 1974 come, and that's when they put us into ERISA, Employee Retirement Income Security Act, or the defined contribution, or the 401k, or the IRA, it shoved all of these amateurs, people with no financial education, into the stock market. And Jim Rickards and I are good friends, you can tell. But when we were kids, nobody was in the stock market. We're in the bond market. Remember that? And he says suddenly they needed to find a way to get some stupid people into the stock market. So they got the 401k, and all the boomers are in it. So we shifted from defined benefit pension plan. So Ford Motor Company has a defined benefit. So Ford Motor stood behind the retirement. And then when we went to, in 74, I shifted to defined contribution. And I've talked to Jim about this. I said, oh my God, that was the beginning of the end at that point, because it was pushing all of us, us boomers, into the stock market, not the bond market. I'm not buying gold because I like gold. I buy gold because I don't trust the Fed. And, you know, and these people actually listening to the Fed, you've got to be kidding me. To 700 PhDs. That's 700 people like my poor dad running the big Ponzi scheme going. I just don't trust the Fed. The Fed is actually a Marxist organization. Your profit is made when you buy, not when you sell. So my strike price for Bitcoin is 6,000. So I think today is what, 40,000. So I'm selling the money. So as my rich dad said to me, your profit's not made when you buy, not when you sell, it's made when you buy. And so you always want to be early into the market. It's the same as when I bought gold, it was $50 an ounce. I still have, I bought my first Kruger in 1972 in Hong Kong because it's illegal for Americans to own gold, which I thought was interesting. And that little Vietnamese woman yelling at me about spot, and she wanted to give me a discount. Everybody wants a discount. I'm going, what is going on here? So the issue is people don't know what money is. We have no financial education in school. And I've made a fortune in Rich Dad, Poor Dad, saying that we should have financial education in our schools. But we don't. We don't even know what money is. So Bitcoin going up and down, I don't really care because my entry point is 6,000. It's always your entry point. And how many ounces do you have? How many coins do you have? But also, if it's going to crash, it's when you get out. The stock market is it's not an all-time high, but it's pretty high. It adjusted last week. I feel for my baby boom friends. They're going to get hammered. What is real today? What is real? You know, and I think really that's kind of the question. So gold and silver are God's money. There's no counterparty risk to gold and silver. They're elements of the periodic table. So God is the counterparty to gold and silver. Bitcoin is the network system, same as Ethereum. It's the network. It's outside the control of the Fed. And so when people say that the Fed's going to shut down Bitcoin and all that, it's possible. They did that in China. So anything's possible today. So I would just listen to idiots like me and go, well, maybe I should do something different than count on my Apple stock keeping going up. You know, I love my poor dad. He was a smart guy, but he was a Marxist. He's not a capitalist. Do you understand what I'm saying? Just because you have a PhD and you make a lot of money doesn't mean you're a capitalist. So you look at most of these people in Hollywood and all that, they make millions of dollars, but they're not capitalists, they're Marxists. And they get that distinction. And I hate to say it again, but this guy said it all in this book. 1848, he was talking about America today. He talked about stage 1 and stage 2. Stage one was when capitalism shifted to socialism. That happened when we had Social Security, Obamacare, everybody's on welfare now. So socialism is now complete in America. Stage two began in January of 2020. I'm not Republican or Democrat, but when Trump's election was stolen, that was the start of communism. Stage two. And since then, they have COVID passports. They have, defund the police. They get released right away and all this stuff. All of this is part of stage two. And what Marx said in this book, stage two, is opposite of stage one. In other words, the violence is about to begin. And that's what he warned about. So if you look at history, the communists have murdered hundreds of millions of people. So it's about to start. Silver has always been the best. It's still 50% off its all-time high, and they keep using it for industry. Gold is just stored, but silver is used in industry. It's an industrial metal. I keep looking at that going, why is the price $22? And as we know, J.P. Morgan, all those guys got caught with their hand in the till suppressing it. See, it's only bad news if you don't like what I'm saying. And I'm just telling you, the Eurodollar index inverted. Every time that has happened throughout history, something bad has happened. And if you listen to guys that you and I respect, like Rickards and Griffin and all this, it's inverted. The Fed cannot stop what's going to happen. So is that good news or bad news, or is that the fact right now?